we move on to talk about Phil Foden and Cole Palmer winning PFA awards. Um, yeah, so Phil Foden, he was named PFA Player of the Year after this past season, and this was actually 3 months after winning the FWA Football of the Year. After him being a catalyst from this Manchester City team that won their fourth successful Premier League title. Phil Foden is actually the fourth City player in the last 5 years to be voted as Player of the Year. Um, Kevin De Bruyne did it two years now, 2020, 21 year back to back. And Erling Haaland did it in the 2023 season. I'm trying to wonder who won the PFA Player of the Year in 2022. I'm trying to see who won that PFA Player in 2022 because I know City won the. Oh, Salah. Salah. Okay. Salah won in 2021, 2022 season. Okay, that's expected. That was the year that Liverpool took City to the final day. Okay, but Salah must have won that multiple times now, at least. So yeah, Phil Foden, he's not a stranger to winning awards, the PFA awards. He's won the PFA Young Player of the Year in 2021 and 2022. And yeah, actually, the Manchester City's women's team forward Khadija Shaw also claimed the women's player of the year. So this is something that Manchester City, they're running up Khadija Shaw, Jamaican woman international. But going back to Philip Foden, and then Cole Palmer was also announced the winner of the PFA Young Player of the Year after scoring 27 goals and registering 15 assists in all competition. This is actually his first season at Chelsea since being sold from Manchester City this past August. And yeah, and let's start off with Phil Foden, obviously winning PFA Player of the Year. Tremendous season. Tremendous season. He had that great start off to his career. Not great, not start because it wasn't really the start of his career, but that first season that he broke into playing game in game out in the COVID campaign where they won the Premier League City. We remember Phil Foden. He had his magical moments. He had that great goal away to Liverpool at Anfield. That great performance that he had there. He broke himself in and he made himself permanent player into the first team. Then he had a little bit of, not slip ups, but not as great of a season in the 21-22 season. Not to the, wasn't a really high climb. We expected him to go from where he was that COVID season to sky high into the Mbappe realm. He didn't quite reach that. Little bit of inconsistent performance. But I say this past season, he rediscovered himself. It was an absolutely great season for Philip Foden. Not just playing as a winger, but also how important he's been in terms of him playing in midfield, in which he's really thrived at, picking up pockets of space in midfield, being a deadly player in there. Especially with De Bruyne being down, he was very vital. Phil Foden was. He was extremely vital when Kevin De Bruyne went down. And yeah, he's an absolutely brilliant player. He's just technically so gifted. English players now, they're starting to develop these sort of technically very, very clever players that can play in tight spaces, that can pick up different pockets of spaces and be very effective. He has that wicked left foot. You go back to the goal that he was able to score against Real. No, was it against Real Madrid? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was against Real Madrid. That wicked, and he scores those kind of goals commonly nowadays. He's just a brilliant, brilliant player with some real quality, real class, and be aware, be aware, because he has a real ability, and I think this is a player that's gonna be, in England. He didn't really have the performances that we've seen from him at England. He wasn't great. Uh, he just didn't look like himself. Now, a lot of the English players did not look like himself. He was playing in, the sort of role, pure winger role, but he was trying to pick up different pocket of spaces, trying to get more involved. And, there was a lot of misplaced passes. He was doing a lot of the simple things wrong. But, what we see from him at Manchester City, especially this past season, he was absolutely electric, extremely dynamic, extremely threatening, has extreme confidence, is willing to try things that other players are not willing to try. And there's just that factor with him. If he's on the pitch, you just don't know what's gonna happen. And that's the deadly player is. He has a rocket shot. He has record technical ability. For me, he's a great player, and it's a player that Guardiola loves. So but let's go back to Cole Palmer now. He won PFA Young Player of the Year, which Phil Foden has done twice now. In his first real season playing in the Premier League, getting first team appearances, and he scored. And he had a ridiculous 27 goals and 15 assists in all competitions in his first season in the Premier League, or first season at Stamford Bridge. The 27 goals and 15 assists came in all competitions. And he was really one of the few bright spots that Chelsea had this past season. The quality he has in terms of, number one, I go back to him, the belief and the confidence and a little bit of cockiness, but in a good way that he had, that he didn't want to sit around at Manchester City and wait for his turn. He wanted to grab it. He had that killer will to say, no, I want out. I want to be able to play in a team that I can play game in, game out. And he had that sort of desire to him, and that sort of mentality. And he backed himself, he believed in himself, and boy, did he pay dividends this past season, because he was extremely vital in terms of the goals that he scored, the flair he had, being able to nutmeg players and score wonder goals, being able to chip goalkeepers from the halfway line, the things he was trying, the passes, how much Chelsea relied on him, not just in terms of his goals, but also his creativity. He was vital in terms of opening up space for his teammates, picking out balls in behind, playing that sort of midfield role. And again, that's why I don't like him playing in the winger roles. He can play that sort of role, that right winger role, cutting it on his left foot, that a brilliant left foot. But if he's picking up the ball in midfield, he has more opportunities to create for teammates, and also has an opportunity to create for himself. He can pick up more pockets of space that can find himself more deadly. And keep in mind, Cole Palmer, I talk about his killer will, the killer mentality. His mentality is great. And you see that in the way he came in off the bench in the European Championship final, and he impacted. He scored that goal to equalize it out of nowhere. That's just him. That's just who Cole Palmer is. He's electric. He's dynamite. He was one of the few England players watching this European Championship. In the few moments Cole Palmer was able to play, you thought every time he got on the ball, you thought something could happen. He was getting past players. He was being dynamic. He was being electric. He was one of the few players who thought that. Every other, all the other players that when at this European Championship for England, they got on the ball. We were just like, oh boy, what's gonna happen here? There's nothing. There was no excitement. Every time Cole Palmer got on the ball, as a first person that actively roots against England because of how biased their media is. I was extremely fearing what the capabilities that he could provide, Cole Palmer. And now it's just the key for him is to add on to what he did last season and build some sort of consistency. There's been some 1-year wonders in football. There has been some serious 1-year wonders. Does Cole Palmer have what it takes to be consistent, to play at this level, game in and game out? Is he that sort of player? So yeah, we all look forward to that.